are.
Ready?
Yep. 3, 2, 1, I guess. All right, that was not the best opening.
I love immediate.
Yeah, I was just like,
You know,
I was
let's
like,
just assault our listeners' eardrums as soon as possible.
all right, well, hi, welcome to Exploring Runeterra. I'm Josh, Dr. Carrot Cake. You guys introduce
I'm
yourselves.
Austin Malverick.
I'm
I'm
Taylor.
just.
Fancy
Oh,
Jam. Me first. I'm more important. Thank you.
Shut up, Justin.
That's Justin. He's here. Um,
Skeletons, you're right. That's Justin. With a Y.
I'm a big boy.
yeah, whatever. So this week we're gonna be talking about Bilgewater. Uh, well, they released audio lore for you guys. So I know most of you can't read, but let's try this again this week. Did any of you listen to the audio lore?
Nope, unfortunately.
Listen, dude. If you're gonna be assigning homework, you gotta fucking like say so.
Yeah, you're a bad teacher.
All right.
I'm
Well,
giving you like
here
the
here's
worst possible score on Rate My Professor.
Alright, Josh. Give us the rundown. Give us the little itsy bitsy about
all
it.
right, all right, all right, all right, all right. Shut up, shut up.
You know you
So,
like giving a rundown.
Justin, shut up.
so this is the first half of Magical Beast in Runeterra. We will be going back to Ionia after that. Um, the reason so in these audio logs, you're a patron in a Bilgewater bar, and you get to see what it's like. See what it's like as as a citizen of Bilgewater. You know how legends and tales and stories are spread. You see how the tavern life is. It's very interesting to see from that perspective. Um, I would say the most interesting character to be introduced in all this was actually the narrator Lars, who apparently has survived every ordeal with every magical beast in Bilgewater at some point. Uh,
Goddamn.
it's suggested that he may not be telling the truth, but I'm pretty sure he is. Uh, and there's a common theme in each story. It's a gold Kraken coin. Kraken is the currency in Bilgewater, if you guys didn't know that, which is why Gangplank, when he his passive, I believe his alt passive involves gold coin. I believe they're Krakens. They can upgrade his ultimate, so it's the currency in Bilgewater, and it's why Pike's ultimate passive also gives Krakens, if you're wondering. So that's a fun tidbit for you. But basically, Lars sits you down and he begins talking about his life, and at some point you learn about the traditions that you're supposed to do along the way in Bilgewater. The first tradition you learn about is that before setting off on a voyage, a captain is supposed to give back to the ocean. This was mentioned in Miss Fortune's short story at one point, in which she killed two brothers and she threw a very expensive rifle into the water. Uh, but it wasn't really explained upon to why they do this. Well, in this story, it was. What happens is it's uh, the captain of the ship. Lars was a harpooner on the ship. He the captain of the ship said, "Yeah, I threw the coin and it'll be fine," but nobody actually saw him do it. So everyone knew he was a cheapskate, so they were kind of suspicious of him. But as they were coming back, they were maybe about a mile or two away from Bilgewater, and they were all celebrating. I think they had some kind of giant catch. It was a very successful hunt, and we come back. We learned that the captain did not throw the coin in the water. We learned this because a giant anchor shoots up through the middle of the boat and it kills, I think, 3 people, and it latches in through the middle of the boat and then tears it in half, basically. And
Shit.
God damn.
and everybody starts panicking, and Lars grabs the captain and he forces him to watch as the captain's freaking out because I guess he didn't believe in the tradition. And on and Nautilus grabs onto the edge of the boat and kind of climbs onto it, and he just starts throwing people in the water, and there's sharks circling all around, eating people, like it's basically a bloodbath. Well, Nautilus is looking for the man who didn't pay tribute, and so what happens is Lars grabs the old captain and he just throws him at Nautilus, and Nautilus grabs him out of midair by the throat and just holds him there, and he just stares at him. And
Holy
Lars jumps off the boat and swims to some nearby rocks as the sharks are coming up on him, and he's the only survivor. Lars is the only survivor, but he turns back and he sees Nautilus just holding the captain there as the captain's screaming, and the boat slowly sinks into the water. And the last thing they see is the captain like waving his hand up, trying to escape before it sinks into the water.
Fucking
And
epic.
and so
damn.
the point of the story at that point is Lars reminds the patron or us that you should always pay your tribute to the ocean before going on a voyage, or else you would face Nautilus's wrath.
God damn.
Yeah, so Nautilus is kind of a scary motherfucker.
Terrible.
It's also suggested that he was a diver who got left behind, and when because there's bio for him, he was a diver that was left behind, and he felt the crushing darkness of the ocean kind of coming down on him. But when he woke up, he was something different, which is interesting because Pike explains that he had a similar situation, but we'll get into that after. So that is the story of Nautilus, basically. So thoughts?
That's fucking badass.
There's definitely an improvement on his last lore. 'Cause it wasn't his lore before this, basically. Like, yeah, he exists. He's in the ocean. He kind of walks around a little bit.
Yeah.
Attacks people every now and then. It's like, he guarded something, right? Or it was like he helped sailors or something back in his old lore?
No, he got left behind and he wanted revenge on the crew that abandoned him, but the league wouldn't tell him who abandoned him. He didn't have any memory.
So, in his current lore, does he still want revenge? Or is that like a gone?
He's more of like an ocean guardian.
Because I feel like the maybe a possible reason why they took that out was because it kind of paralleled Pike's like a lot.
Yeah, it was
otherwise,
basically the same story. And it
yeah.
just kind of.
Perhaps, but yeah, that's a possible reason. I just think it gives an interest. I think they needed somebody who was harsher than Tom Kench. Well, not harsher than Tom Kench. Like they needed a protector of the ocean in a way, instead of like Fizz, who is more of a trickster, and Tom Kench, who is more of a devil. Like he's the devil to, you know, that kind of yeah. So I think they just needed more of a protector than anything else, and I think Nautilus is a very good,
More neutral party.
yeah. So, I mean, do you guys have any other comments about Nautilus? Any questions that I can try and answer best I can?
Was he always fucking huge?
That is the one thing I don't fucking know and don't understand. You son
Do
of
you
a
have
bitch.
any questions that I know? I know the answer to all these questions.
No, I didn't say that.
I don't know anything about that.
All right. So I've been trying to figure that out for a while because I was like, he's so fucking massive. Like, if you okay, we're gonna take the two human top laners I can. Let's take the four most human top laners I can think of: Darius, Garen, Shen, and Tryndamere. If we put them up to Nautilus, they're 2/3 his size.
Also, in that one Ari cinematic, where there's like them all.
Yeah, like he's
He's
massive.
fucking huge. And I imagine if he's that tall in the lore, like
I
just
don't.
imagine walking in the ocean, like on the ocean, or at some point his head is gonna be fucking popping out. See his fucking head just poking out.
I mean, it's possible. It's possible.
Like he just doesn't seem human. He seems like a fucking titan.
He's at least 100
Yeah.
feet tall.
He definitely feels like more the like.
Guardian.
Guardian, supernatural kind of creature, not like this is a human.
You pay your respects to the ocean. Are you you are the respects to the ocean, basically.
Yeah. And he fucking kills you. Brings your whole ship down. It's
Yeah.
insane.
It's definitely not.
I'd love to see like a Nautilus cinematic, or more of like a Nautilus cinematic.
Well, I mean, this isn't lore, but it's definitely interesting. Riot did build a statue of Nautilus under the ocean, and it is still there. It's, I believe it's in the Caribbean. Let me check real quick. Nautilus statue underwater.
Wait, they
I
like
believe,
actually built a
yeah,
statue.
yeah, there's an actual it's an actual statue. They actually went back pretty recently, and yeah, he's in Hawaii, it looks like, and they
Dope.
yeah
I think it's Australia. Yeah,
uh
it's in
it's
Brisbane.
why is it saying Hawaii is the top search? All right, whatever. Oh yeah, okay, second one's Australia, but yeah, it's supposed to be like uh it's supposed to be like
Artificial reef.
yeah, an artificial reef. And it's just it was they visited her recently, and I think like a family of eels was living there. I think
Aw,
that's all
that's
that lives there.
adorable.
How
Yeah.
cute. You're Termina Blanca from Street Fighter. That's
And then
badass.
and then I mean that's about it for Nautilus actually. So I mean, do you guys want to move on to Fizz or
That sounds good.
I'm
all right.
down. I fucking hate Fizz.
I think everybody hates Fizz. So Fizz's lore is that everybody hates Fizz.
Well, they did really good designing that character.
So what happens is we pick up with Lars again, and some kids walk by and or run by, and he's like joking with them, and he decides to tell them a story about Fizz, and he's explaining how he's sitting on a rock in the middle of the ocean, about a mile off the coast of Bilgewater, and they're like. And he doesn't. He tells the kids that it's a story for another day. But if you listen to the Nautilus podcast, it's because Nautilus just sunk a ship, and he's like, I've been out there for 2 days, and I thought I was gonna die, and sharks were surrounding me, and I was ready to like make a break for it, when he looked out and he saw a pair of eyes looking at him,
What the
and
fuck?
it was Fizz's head staring at him, and the sharks immediately like left. They were gone. They didn't want to deal with Fizz. So they were gone, and he took this chance to start swimming, and he jumped in the water, and Fizz was coming right at him, and he was panicking, and he made it to Bilgewater, and he ran all the way home, and he passed out, and the next morning he comes downstairs, like he's like, oh, I'm alive, everything's great, but he noticed tiny wet like footprints all over his house,
Oh god.
and he was like, oh, that's fine. um I guess that's how he thought. He was just like, oh, that's fine. And at some point he's going around, and I think Fizz started playing tricks on him. What exactly I know one of the major tricks was he put eels in Lars's bed. So when Lars
What
crawled
the
in the bed, it shocked them.
Oh shit. Jesus
then
Christ.
He also he did something with his food. I remember. I think he like put seawater in his like all his food or something like that. And but basically, Fizz was just playing tricks on him, and he started driving Lars crazy. And Lars was like, "I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. Like I can't deal with this." So, uh, we're going along with Lars, and he's in his bed one night, and he hears Fizz coming up his stairs. Now he searched this entire house for Fizz, and he can't find Fizz. But now he hears him coming up the stairs, and he's like, "Fizz is gonna kill me. This is it. It's over." And he looks over, and he closes his eyes, and he hears Fizz right next to the bed, and he's prepared to die, and then he opens his eyes, and there's nothing there, and he starts like he's confused, and then he looks over to his bed, and there's a gold Kraken coin on there, and he thought that was kind of weird, but then he realized it's the same he's the same coin. Yeah, it's the same coin. It's the same coin that his captain had said he threw in the water, and he realizes that Fizz had wiped the coin when the captain threw it into the ocean, so no tribute was ever
Oh,
made. So
fuck.
Fizz was the reason that entire crew died.
Oh my god.
And yeah,
Well, that's a big
Fizz,
fuck you.
yeah, and so he was like, he never dealt with Fizz again, but he's ever since then he was just like, holy fuck, like he's like, never deal with the trickster. He's like, never. He's like, if you ever see Fizz or tiny wet footprints in your house, just like you're screwed. Like he's basically warning the kids to avoid Fizz at all costs. He's like, this isn't funny, blah blah blah. And
Wow.
yeah.
What the fuck?
So Fizz is a bit dark. You know?
So he's as much of a piece of shit like in the lore as he is in the game, is what I'm understanding.
This is
Yeah,
a big
basically,
asshole.
Just
basically, yeah.
terrifying and a complete dick.
What a fucking
Yeah,
bastard.
he put eels in somebody's bed, so you know.
He also killed his whole crew.
I mean, yeah, he did do that.
Josh is getting hung up on the eel thing, but forget
well, I
the
mean, like,
murder
like,
isn't. The
Lars
murder
didn't.
isn't important.
Lars didn't give a shit. Like, why?
I
Yeah,
mean, Jesus Christ. I don't know. I'd give a little bit of a shit. He left fucking footprints all over the carpet. Asshole.
I mean,
That poor carpet.
yeah. I mean, like that's basically Fizz's fucking game. I mean, he's viewed by children to be very funny, but anyone who's ever dealt with him is basically like, no, fuck that guy. He's like,
I mean,
So
he does.
does
He looks
Fizz-
pretty cute.
Does he
is.
kill people, or does he really just play a shit ton of pranks on people?
he plays pranks on people that basically turns their lives upside down. He's indirectly killed a lot of people.
Yeah. Like he stole that coin. So that pretty much killed the whole crew.
Yeah, so that's basically Fizz. I mean, they summed up his lore fairly well, I thought. I mean, like in game he's an asshole, and now in lore he's also an asshole.
Yeah.
How come all of the like creatures from Bilgewater, like how come they're all terrifying pieces of shit? They're terrifying.
I mean, to be fair, all of Bilgewater's terrifying. Like Bilgewater's a terrible place to
That's
live. They
true.
have the harrowing where ghosts literally come from the Shadow Isles and
I
kill
mean,
hundreds of people.
ghosts
and
or whatever, but like,
They have Ilawi who
Ghosts or whatever.
Ilawi literally has a god in a jar that she just crushes people with. Like,
that's pretty sweet. I'm
The
not gonna
god in
lie.
a jar.
That's hot. Didn't Gangplank and Alawi like bang?
yeah, they
Oh.
used to date.
Yeah.
Aw,
Yeah.
it's so sweet.
Yeah. He was like-
Terrifying, but sweet.
Yar. They banged her. Fuck.
This is, wow.
Yeah. So, that's Fizz. Let's move on to perhaps the most interesting of them all, Tom Kench.
He's my favorite. I love him.
Let's not bench the Kench here. All right. So Lars is basically a broken man. He lost his job because Nautilus sunk his ship. He's kind of crazy now because Fizz tortured him, and so you're like, well, where do we go from here? Well, Lars gets approached by Tom Kench, and Tom basically they changed his lore slightly. So from what was implied to be like where he ate people, you know how in the original lore he took on the name of a gambler and then he ate the gambler's wife and all the wedding gifts and everything.
Yeah.
Like, so Tom Kench's new lore is that he basically does the same thing, except he doesn't kill him at the end. He just revels in their pain.
Oh wow.
Oh, well, that's
So-
nice of him. At least he doesn't kill him, right?
I mean, yeah, I guess, but like, so like we deal with Tom Kench, and he basically offers Lars the a a chance to get his own ship, and Lars is like, "Oh fuck yeah, I'll take that deal." So he gives him the one gold kraken that has been following through the story so far, and he goes and Tom Kench is like, okay, you're gonna use this to bet, and so Lars starts betting and betting and betting, and he wins plenty more than he needs. But then he's like, well, I want a fleet of boats, and he starts playing again, and he gets enough for a fleet of boats, and he goes, well, I don't need a fleet of boats now. I can just win that gambling. I can live off gambling, and then he loses it all. He wins it all basically for like 15 years, I think he said. He just gambles. He either is like on top of the world or he loses it all. And one day, it finally comes down to a day in the gutter where he's basically drunk in the gutter. He's lost everything except for the original. No, he's lost everything actually. So Tom Kench comes to him again, and he says, Lars, he goes, you can come back from this. He goes, all you got to do is follow me, and I'll take you somewhere new, and we can start again, me and you. And he hands Lars the gold coin, the original gold coin, and he says, let's go, Lars. And Lars is like, no, 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 not again. I'm not doing another 15 years of this. And he goes, I'm just gonna take this gold coin. I'm gonna go on my way. I'm gonna make an honest living. And Tom Kench goes, all right. And he goes, but if you ever need me, I'm just around the corner. And so basically, instead of eating Lars, Tom Kench watched him deal with gambling addiction and watched him
Oh
destroy
my
his own life for 15
God.
years.
What the fuck? Jesus Christ.
And then there's other tales of like him making an honest man lie to his brother, and he's like I can take you away from this place if you just tell one little lie, and then he turns one little lie into like the death of family members, and it's like this horror. Like Tom Kent is very good at twisting things, but he's basically the devil.
Oh my God.
He's very
What a
very
nice guy.
charming in an odd way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's,
Like I know he's one of the people that says something about Garen and Katarina's relationship that they have.
yeah, basically. So he's the closest thing to the devil in Runeterra, and I think he's a very interesting character. It's the devil went down the George's Runeterra edition, basically.
Pretty much. It's weird.
But yeah, it's still his name's not really Tom Kench. His real name's the River King. So,
The River King?
yeah,
Damn.
because Tom Kench is the name of a gambler who lost to Tom Kench,
Oh, okay.
and they say he might be the oldest demon in Runeterra.
Oh shit.
So, because Evelyn was made in the Rune Wars, and Tom Kench is as old as the Waterways in Valoran, which are older than the Rune Wars.
Everyone actually has a voice line towards Tom Kench where she calls him the River King.
Yeah, she says, "Stay out of my territory."
It's like, I like your style, River King, but stay out of my territory.
Yeah, and then so Lars now has faced 3 of the 4 demons
Poor
of Bilgewater.
Lars, that poor guy. Like, what did
Oh,
he
it's-
do to deserve all of this?
He has a name, his name is Lars.
Lars
Well, it
isn't
gets-
that
it-
bad.
Well, here's the end of Lars's story. In the final thing, Lars gets kicked out of the bar, and he says goodnight. And he's a very charming gentleman. I'll give him that. And he's walking along, and he turns down an alley, and you hear the sounds, because this is audio again, of somebody being stabbed to death. And Lars's immediate reaction is, "Oh shit!" and
I
he
think
goes,
that's the appropriate reaction.
well, no, the next part is what makes it good. He goes, "None of my business, friend. You keep going on about your business. I'm just gonna turn around and walk the other way."
Which is understandable considering the shit the poor guy's been through. You'd want to avoid maybe
I just
being
wanna live,
stabbed. Yeah, I
please.
just want to live. I want to go home and not be insane at the end of the day.
Well, so Lars turns, and I should have mentioned this a little earlier. He still has the gold coin, the gold kraken. He shows it to he says he shows it to the patron. He goes, "Here it is," and so it's implied he showed it to you.
Yeah.
But he starts like then you hear the voice spike up and he goes, "You look familiar." This is the other person, the guy who is stabbing the guy.
Oh fuck.
He goes, "You look familiar." And he turns to him and he goes, "Pike?"
Oh god.
And he goes, "But you're dead." And like he starts having this moment of panic, and then he goes, "Yeah, you're on my list." And Pike slowly starts walking towards him, and of course, you know, old dead ghost man's walking towards you. You freak out. So Lars takes off running, and from what I understand, Lars might be. So, do you remember in the Pike teaser trailer how they had the guy with a bunch of hooks and rope wrapped around his face, pulling him back?
Oh, is
Yeah.
that Lars?
I think that might be
Aw,
Lars because
poor
the way it
guy.
sounded, that's what happened. He gets yanked back, and Lars basically like cuts his throat open and rolls him into the river, and he throws the gold, and Pike throws the gold coin into the river, and with that, Lars' story is over. But Pike clears off his name, and then that doesn't really explain Pike's backstory though. So what we learn with Pike is that he was a young man who worked on the slaughter docks, which is the Bilgewater Bridge that we fight on in Aram. That's the slaughter docks, and he worked on the slaughter docks, and he eventually convinced the crew to let him join on a trip because you don't make much money cutting the meat on fish, but if you catch the fish, you make a lot of money. And he quickly became known as the greatest harpooner in Bilgewater. So like more people were offering him more money to go on their ships, and eventually he took a job with a inexperienced captain going after one of the more legendary beast in Runeterra, and the story is that they have like these special like ink sacs in their mouth that if you cut off, they can be used for potions, and magic users pay like top coin for it. So they are able to track one down, and Pike is able to kind of pin it down with harpoons, and he crawls over into its mouth, and he starts like cutting out. He starts like cutting out the ink sacs, but the captain is like the creature's kind of fighting, and they think they see more, and Pike is in the mouth still. He's the only one in the mouth, and the captain goes, "Cut all the lines."
Oh
And
fuck.
so they cut all the lines, and the Pike looks back because all of a sudden all his lines are looks back, and he sees all the crew like screaming because the captain's going down cutting all the lines, and he's like, "Oh fuck." And the creature closes its jaw and sinks underwater, and Pike is basically crushed to death, or so it's implied. But then he wakes up, and those ink sacs now look like eyes to him, and he's very confused on what's happening, but he feels different. Something's different about him. And from there, we're kind of left in the dark with how Pike eventually got back to Bilgewater, but it's implied that Pike, the list Pike has, is actually the manifest of the ship that he was on when he was, you know, when he got eaten. I don't eaten or drowned. It's kind of hard to categorize it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, a bit of both. But basically Pike was like, well, I'm just gonna. They stole the list, and the ship became like cursed. Like the name of the ship, I think. I'm trying to find the name real quick because I can't exactly remember it. Uh, but basically, not this crew became like legendary. That everyone's dying. The captain died. The first mate. Everybody's dying, and Pike eventually like finishes off his list, and he's like, well, now what do I do? Like, and he looks back, and somebody witnessed his kill, and he grabs this person, and he's like, "What's your name?" And the guy's like panicking. He's like, "This is my first day in Bilgewater, blah blah blah," and he throws the guy down the stairs, and he pulls out his list, and now there's a new name on the list at the bottom, and
Oh
it's
fuck.
the guy's name, and it's a made up, like it's like midshipman or something. It's like something he wasn't before. Because the guy was, I think the guy said he like had never sailed before. He just came to Bilgewater to like start a new life, and this guy, he's like, "Oh, you're on my list," so he kills the guy, the idea is that Pike now has killed everybody who was on board that ship, but he doesn't want to kind of rest in peace. He wants to keep killing. So every time he meets a person, they now look familiar to him.
What a fucking asshole.
The name of the ship was called the Terror, which
The Terror,
if
right,
you
right.
set sail on a ship called the Terror, like I feel like you're asking for it, you know? Like
Just asking to die. Wow.
But yeah, that's the 4 creatures of Bilgewater.
Jesus Christ.
It's kind of dark.
the
Well,
whole
shit.
the whole lore for Bilgewater in general is just like it's real depressing. There's really not a whole lot of happy stuff going on.
Yeah, after we finish Ionia, we'll go over Gangplank Misfortune,
Yeah.
the comic books and all that. But yeah, Bilgewater is basically the shittiest place in Runeterra. So, do you guys have any last minute questions? Are we good?
No, we're good.
I think I'm good. I just
All right.
design wise, I think Tom Kench and Pike are definitely some of my favorite champions.
They're definitely. I really enjoy Pike. His kit's very interesting, and design wise, he's really cool. So I definitely really like the theme of Bilgewater. Bilgewater and Ionia are my 2 favorites.
Yeah. I think they did
But
a really good job with keeping even between like the old champions and the new ones. I feel like they've kept a really good job at keeping it consistent with the theme.
I'm real
yeah,
glad that they updated Nautilus's lore. I
Yeah.
felt like it needed new lore really badly.
yeah, Nautilus is one of the oldest champions. Like he's not. If you look under roles when you're selecting champions in a game, he won't show up under any of them. You have to type his name in, or you have to scroll down to ends.
God
Yeah,
Aw.
poor Nautilus. But in that case, I mean, that's it for this week. You know, subscribe, like, whatever. Do the, you know.
Wow,
I
that
get
was really good.
1,000 likes on this video.
Yeah, if we get 10,000 likes on this, Austin will go on a date with Justin.
As if we're not already.
I'll make it happen.
All right, well, we have it here first. 1,000 likes. All right.
20,000 likes, just won't drink his own pee again.
No, okay, we're not doing. That's all right. You need to cut. You need to cut that part. You need to cut that.
I'll do it.
I have
You'll
control
do it.
here. All right, you can't tell me what to put in the video or not.
All right, we're gonna go to prison. All right. Well, that's it for this week. Thanks again.
See you next time.
Ah, fucking idiot.